Hello, the mask is back, and as usual, I'm last minute with my picks, so let's just jump into it, and this will be a quick one. Um, I'm late to my other videos as well, so I have a lot of catching up to do, and I didn't make predictions for the last card for the first time in a while. I think that was the first time I actually skipped an event since I started this channel, although I might be a little off on that. I usually never miss it, but Loner Kavanaugh, Brendan Moreno just wasn't interesting to me. Uh, and there was a lot of upsets that I probably wouldn't have picked. So honestly, I'm quite glad I didn't pick any fights on that card. But starting with Rodolfo Bellato and Luke Fernandez. I know nothing about Luke Fernandez, but I know a lot about Rodolfo Bellato, and he has really good boxing in the clinch, and he has some underrated knees. However, out at range, he sucks. He's terrible. He has a leg kick, and that's it. And he's very chinny, and sometimes he has a surprisingly decent recoverability. But I'm not going to trust in that this time against a younger, hungry prospect with a guy who's, at this point in his UFC career, taking quite a bit of damage, even when he's winning. So I'm going to say Fernandez. I'm just going to go with first round KO just because I don't trust in Rodolfo Bellato these days. He's been quite inconsistent, and even when he's not losing, he is flopping on the deck like a fish, to take a quote from Lucas Tracy, which is a quote from SpongeBob even originally. So, I mean, we're just all stealing quotes from each other at this point. And then Diar Nergozai and Rafael Tobias. I'm actually going to go with Tobias by a first round submission. And I understand completely that he's not proven, really, and these odds are quite scary, to be honest. I thought that he was like a minus two something, and then he's kind of getting closer to Diar's odds, I guess. He's sort the sort of betting lines are closing, getting closer, or whatever it's called. And that's kind of worrying because that tells me something that the betters out there know something that I don't. Maybe Rafael Tobias is coming in with an injury, but Diar, he just looks very lost on the feet most of the time. He's not very defensively aware, and once it gets to the ground, whether it be getting dropped or just a clinch exchange, it's kind of unreliable to trust in Diar in that regard. And I'm pretty sure Rafael has a bunch of submissions from what I'm hearing, from other people who make videos, prediction videos, and from these Tapology odds. I haven't watched him. Maybe I did and I forgot on the Contender Series, maybe, but I'm just gonna trust him over Dr. Sumaderji versus Jesus Aguilar. Um, yeah, I think Jesus is really good. He's quick. He's fast. And he has a really good guillotine. Sometimes it doesn't work though. Sometimes he goes for it too much from what I hear. He's been kind of cleaning that up a bit as well, but he certainly goes for it a little too much sometimes, depending on who he fights, I guess. I think Rafael Estevan was the one that people, especially like Weasel, was complaining about him doing it too much against. And Sumaderji, I just think his height and reach is going to be so hard for him to deal with. But I was gonna pick Sumadarchi even despite that because I just think that he uses the sort of front kicks very well. He uses them to the body especially well to sort of just score points for the decision because he usually goes to decision, Sumadarji. And even if it gets close, he does have those elbows which are pretty nasty. Um, Now he's not too great in close and tight range, which is certainly worrying. But those elbows I feel like are going to be enough to where Jesus with his super short T-Rex arms is not going to be able to get to him enough to really hurt Sumaderji. I feel like he could sort of elbow, create distance, back off, keep with those front kicks, sometimes the knee stomps and some jabs every now and again. So I feel like Sumaderji's style is just a nightmare for Jesus Aguilar. Oh yeah, I didn't even click the pick. Sometimes I forget to do that, but decision. And the Cody Durden versus this guy. I'm not gonna even bother pronouncing his name like I did before. I'm going with Cody Durden. I know he's coming off some pretty rough loss streak, but wow, a lot of people are picking the other guy from Mongolia. I'm picking Durden. I think that he has some really decent boxing in close. He's pretty quick with the hands. Only thing is he's not very defensively aware, but offensively he's really good in the hands, and he's quite short, so it's going to be hard for him to actually get inside. But it's not going to be like Sumadarji where, and Jesus is a better striker, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be like Jesus versus Sumadarji where it's a 10-inch reach disadvantage. Like, he still has a somewhat comparable reach. It's still a 4-inch reach disadvantage. It's not terrible. Now, the Mongolian guy here, he does have a pretty like he can make bantamweight. Like he's a pretty big flyweight, but I trust in Cody Durden's wrestling skill wise to not give up his neck too easy. And he's gone up against so much higher level competition that I just trust in him in these bad positions to make it out and just land a few ground and pound shots, not get wrapped up in any tricky submissions, and land a few more shots on the feet. Maybe some really nice hooks that rock him a bit. Because I don't think his striking's all that, this Mongolian guy here. So another decision there. Did I pick submission in this? Yeah, okay, just making sure. Ricky Tercios versus Alberto Montes. I'm probably gonna end up getting a bunch of these underdogs wrong, but I like going with underdogs in these BMF fights, these BMF fight cards. I'm going with the Ricky Tercios. I'm probably, like I said, gonna get some of these wrong, but I trust in Ricky Tercios' pace. I really liked his sort of strategy against um, Raul Rosas Jr. because against Raul Rosas, you kind of have to not give him respect, and you kind of just have to put a pace on him because what he does is he does that to you. He tries to put the pace on you. He kind of just sort of floats around at range, trying to sort of get you thinking he's just going to play this little tit for tat kickboxing game with you, and then he waits for the perfect moment for the shot, and then he kind of just controls you for the rest of the round, and you're not able to get any meaningful strikes on him, and for that reason he'll win the rounds. And even though sometimes you could argue submissions because he kind of gives up his neck every now and again, so you could argue, oh, was that more impactful than the almost nothing that Raul Rosas did, but he did lay on top? It's certainly something that's like a flaw with his style, and Ricky Tercios was kind of getting the better of him early in that fight with his style. So that's why, even though Alberto Montes could be a really great prospect that I have no idea how good he is, but I just can't trust that because again, I've not seen like these first like the first two guys. I've not really seen these Contender Series guys, or I just forgot about it. But I did watch Ricky Tercios like 3 4 times, and I do like his pace. I like his switch kicks. I like his just kicks to the body, kicks to the legs. I like his sort of even though it's not very damaging and it's kind of flicky and it's kind of whatever and it's kind of trash to be honest. I like that he's constantly throwing the 1-2s. I like that he's constantly throwing something out there and that could get him caught because he could get figured out in this fight where Alberto he finds the timing and he counters him. But I just like Ricky Tercios' pace. I like that he can shoot takedowns of his own. He's decently well rounded, and even though he doesn't do anything particularly good, he does everything okay. And that's more than enough that I could say about this guy. Who, honestly, all I know is that he's 10-1. So I'm gonna go with a decision. I could see a submission to be honest, because Ricky Tercios he has an underrated ground game to be honest. But no, I'm just gonna say decision. Dante Johnson and Cody Bumdidge. I was going to consider Cody Bumdidge, to be honest, because, I mean, it's these guys with these bad records, and Cody Bumdidge did look decent in his last fight against Cam Rouston until he got finished. It's with these, like, really bad record guys, like with the Jamie Pickett as well, where it's like, sometimes they have surprisingly okay performances, like even Trayshawn Gore. 5-4 guy, but he had a really great performance with the guillotine at one moment in his career. And I think that Cody, he's being way too underrated in this fight. I do think that he's going to survive early on here. I think he's going to survive the first round. He has a decent survivability. But I'm going to say second round TKO, similar to the Cal Ralston fight. Not in the sense that it's going to be sort of a long rangey tit for tat style until he finds the shots and then he just swarms him. But I think it's going to be a bit of a war early on, and then I think that they're going to sort of slow down in the second round. And in that slower moments, Cody is going to sort of be more one-dimensional and figured out, and that he's going to sort of just go for some overhands, and every now and again he's going to try and get a hook in there when he feels that he's close enough. But it's just going to miss the target more often than not, as is shown in the Callum Roston fight and other prior fights, even in the Eric McConaughey fight. Like, that guy should not be having any close fights with you, nevertheless getting a split decision win. And Dante Johnson, he looks explosive, fast, powerful. I don't know too much about him, but yeah, with these odds, I'm definitely going to trust the Dana White's Contender Series guy for once on this card. Round 2 TKO, I'll say. Cody, another Cody, who I actually am picking. I'm picking a ton of underdogs in this card, man. But he should not be this big of an underdog, and I'm glad that most Tapology fans are actually recognizing it, with this one at least. I think that Cody, his shots are incredibly fast. He sort of loses his speed as the fight goes on because against a guy who actually has punching power, who's not chinny like most of his guys that he's fought up against after fighting Cody Garber. I mean, Dominic Cruz. He's sort of been able to gas more often than not because of the fact that he can't really pace himself against these guys who are actually pushing the pace and who also have power and who are also getting him into a brawl. He's not as patient anymore, and he did have a moment where he's trying to sort of do that, but he's doing it in the wrong ways where he's kind of just letting his opponents tee off on him, and he's not really learning the he's kind of just relying on head movement, and he's not really learning the I don't know, he just doesn't really have a good guard, I'm gonna be honest. Like on the feet. On the ground, it's also not too great, but offensively, he has a really fast shot. He has a really fast hooks, probably like top 10 fastest hooks in bantamweight history. He has incredibly fast hands. Unfortunately, he just doesn't really know how to set it up. Like he doesn't really have a good jab. He kind of has an okay overhand. He likes to. I mean, the way he did it against Rafael Sunset was pretty slick. But overall, it's like he's winning against these older guys who, this guy Long Zhao, he's older experience wise, but he's very young and green in the game. He doesn't have that many UFC fights at all, really. And so I trust that Cody Garbrandt, he's gonna find the shots, and even though Long Zhao's a big, strong guy for the weight class, and he could probably find some elbows on the way up from the takedowns, I do think that Cody Garbrandt's gonna hold him down enough, rack up some control time, just do more than him overall in the rounds. The judges are going to look at okay, he's being offensive, he's doing more, he's backing up when he needs to, using his fancy footwork, and then getting in on the shots, just holding him there for a little bit, like a couple minutes, and then when Long Zhao gets up, yeah, he's landing the damage, but Cody Garbrandt's just doing more overall in the rounds, whereas Long Zhao, he's sort of playing catch up with the point fighting, and I think that Cody Garbrandt, he's going to rock him early, and it's going to be different for Long Zhao to sort of have to deal with that. So he's going to make a comeback in the third round, no question. He's going to land some nasty elbows. He's going to cut Cody Garbrandt in the third round, but Cody Garbrandt's going to do just enough to not get 10-8'd and survive to the end and get a 29-28. And Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. I'm going so back and forth on this one. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to go with Gregory because I think that he has more effective tools in this fight. I'm going to go with a round. I'm going to go with a round 2 TKO. I think Gregory has more tools in this fight. Defensively, Gregory is worse. Bruno isn't that good defensively either. But I liked that Gregory, he was like going tit for tat with um, Roman Kopylov, who was seen as like the next up striker before losing to Paulo Costa, and was actually like in that tit for tat exchange, he was actually like winning all those exchanges, almost all of them, until I believe the third round, or it might have been the second round, where he actually got caught a couple times and he was like slightly rocked, you could see. But Roman Kopylov just isn't really able to capitalize. Bruno Ferreira will be, which is certainly worrying going into this. He sees red when he goes for it, whereas Roman Kopylov, he kind of just bounces at range until he really sees that you're hurt, and even then he'll sometimes try to judge distance a little too much. He tries to play the X's and O's. He's playing with the beakers and test tubes like Corey Sanhagen. But Bruno Ferreira, he'll go for the overhands, he'll go for the hooks, and he timed I think it was like a hook or an uppercut from Gregory, and then he timed it, and then he like just moved his head off the center line, and then got a beautiful overhand, which is how he won the first fight, Bruno Ferreira. I think that this is a great fight, by the way. It's a pretty underrated main card, I must say, because like these are all great fights. Yes, they're not exactly like all ranked fights, and that's not what we look for on a card like this, but they're all competitive, great fights in my opinion. And Gregory Rodriguez, I think he has he's basically a light heavyweight. Let's be honest, he could certainly make like light heavyweight, and he's kind of being a weight bully in this weight class, Gregory. And I think that Bruno Ferreira has earned this shot. However, I'm gonna be honest, Marvin Vettori kind of having a tit for tat exchange with you is certainly not nearly as impressive as Roman Kopylov having a tit for tat exchange with you and winning. It's just two different levels at this point in their careers. Marvin Vettori is not the same as um, Roman Kopylov. Marvin has some boxing and that's it. Roman Kopylov has some comparable boxing, and then he has the beautiful kicks, and sometimes he can even shoot a takedown. Gregory Rodriguez, he's big, he's imposing. The only thing is he's chinny and he's kind of not defensively all there, and he's probably chinny because of the weight cut. And he does have the takedowns though. Like Bruno does have some takedowns to be fair as well, and he even has some better jiu-jitsu in my opinion. But what Gregory has over him is the size. I think that he's gonna shuck off all the takedown attempts that comes his way if Bruno does try. And I do think that RoboCop, on the other hand, if he tries, he's gonna get it, and he's gonna lay on top of you and land some vicious ground and pound. He's not a lay and pray. I know I said lay, but he's gonna not just lay. He's gonna find the positions, and he's just gonna rain down elbows. That's what I think. So I think that overall, whether it be a ground and pound TKO, whether it be just the improvements in the distance management, and then he finds a beautiful long rangy cross or something. I could definitely see him putting away Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira has shown a bit of a sus chin at moments in his career as well. Not as bad, but it's certainly there to be cracked. Drew Dober and Michael Johnson. I'm going with Drew Dober, man. I know that this is kind of a 50-50 pick. Oh, he actually went to slight favorite. Earlier today, it said that they were both minus 110 evens. Um, yeah, I'm going with Drew Dober. I mean, I was originally picking him as an underdog because Michael Johnson was the favorite at some point even, but I'm not switching my pick just for that. I mean, I was hoping they pick a lot more underdogs on this card, and I did already pick like four, but I think Drew Dober is just the pace that he puts on you. He always has like a forward pressure, unless it's like a really long, rangy guy that is just going to be really hard for him to get inside. Michael Johnson's like basically the same reach, same height. Unless you're like 5'11" and up, and you have like a freaking 75-inch reach or something like that, it's going to be pretty tough for you to get Drew Dober off of you. Or unless you're like John Silva, who has just insane, who just has insane like counter ability. Jun Silva is like another level, and like the guys that Drew Dober's losing to, it's like Jean Silva, Manuel Torres, who's gonna get into the top 10 after a Benil Dariush absolute destruction, and some other guys. Like he's losing to these absolute killers and high level guys. On the other hand, Michael Johnson, he's losing to Diego Ferreira, who at one point was a pretty, he made top 15 at one point, but he's a gatekeeper to the top 15, and at this point, like a gatekeeper to the top 30 after losing to Anthony Hernandez. Like Michael Johnson, he has really fast hands, but he doesn't have kicks, and not really. And Drew Dober, on the other hand, he has really, really underrated body shots, which I think is gonna really slow down Michael Johnson, who is already quite a low output guy against a Daniel Zellhuber. He was kind of people were saying, "Oh man, he's like a better Bobby Green going into that fight." And then look at Bobby Green just using superior head movement and styling on a Daniel Zellhuber, catching him with the right shots and putting him away. Michael Johnson was not able to put away um, Daniel Zellhuber because he's able to absolutely style on these guys with lackluster boxing and even finish some of these guys with absolutely horrendous ones, which just throw random hooks in the pocket like a um, Otman Azaitar. But these other guys who are actually decent, like he'll have to go to decisions with, he'll have to go to close scraps with. Even a Darius Flowers was a decision, I think. Let me just double check there. Yeah, it's like he went to the wrestling in that fight. I think Drew Dober, he's only losing to these absolute like phenoms on the ground, like a. I mean, look, say what you want about Renato Moicano at this point in his career. Offensively, he's an absolute phenom. Defensively, when you push the pace on him wrestling wise, then he has a problem. But offensively, in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, Renato Moicano is really good. And so Michael Johnson, these performances in hindsight aren't all that, and he really just has to rely on you making a mistake in the pocket where he just lands that super quick like left hook or right hook, and then just he follows up with nasty ground and pound. But it doesn't happen rare. It doesn't happen often these days. It's quite rare. And Drew Dober, like I said, that straight punch to the body, it's there all day against a guy like Michael Johnson, and he goes for that a lot. He even got that against um, that Brazilian guy. I can't remember his name, but the guy that sort of like dodged six punches of Drew Dober's, and then he did a little dance after, and then he just got folded to a body shot after right after. I it was a Brazilian guy. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I think it was just before the Bobby Green fight. Either way, Drew Dober, I think he's going to slow him down with the body shots. He even has some really nice body kicks. That's really underrated from Drew Dober. And I think he's going to then come upstairs with the right hook when he backs up Michael Johnson to the fence. And Michael Johnson on the back foot, backed up to the fence, being more tired, having to not really having an answer to the body shots. He's then gonna feel it, and he's then gonna not have the timing that he did prior. So I'm gonna say a second round KO or TKO, probably KO even. I'd say that's a nasty fight. Rob Font, Raul Rosas Jr. I'm going with Raul Rosas. I think that people are heavily, at least these YouTubers are heavily underestimating the idea. I understand that Rob Font had like actually no, I think it was Corey Sandhagen that had the broken arm. Okay, never mind what I was about to say. I think that people are heavily underestimating the fact that Rob Font has terrible takedown defense. I understand that he works his way back up, but if you look back at the opponents that people are praising him for getting his way back up with, fighting the grip, fighting the locks, getting back up, working his way along the fence, I understand that people are praising that, but if you look at who he's actually doing that against, Gene Matsumoto is wait, where is he? Oh yeah, okay. I forgot that he won against him for a second there. Gene Matsumoto is terrible at holding you down. We saw that against Javid Bashrat. Or was it Farid? I think it was Javid. He is terrible at holding you down. Sure, he can get these super strong, tough man takedowns, but he can't keep you down. He just can't do that. He hasn't done that against anyone really in the UFC thus far. He can't really keep you down. He can't keep you there. I mean, against Miles John, maybe he did a little bit, but even then, for the most part, he just takes you down and expects that scores, but it doesn't. You need to actually work there. And then you look at Kyler Phillips, who was able to who is notorious for gassing in the second and third rounds, was able to keep down Rob Font for the whole first round and clearly won the round on that. Second and third rounds, okay, he wasn't able to do the same, but that was beautiful how he was able to just completely control Rob Font in that round. People aren't talking about that. Nobody is talking about how people are just saying, oh, he worked his way back up and then he shut off the takedowns and then he just pieced up Kyler Phillips. Anyone who says that is dumb. They haven't rewatched the fight. What actually happened was he gassed because for whatever reason Kyler Phillips has no cardio past the first 6 minutes of a fight, and he was then getting pieced up for that reason because he just has a blitz on the feet and he's not really out there in the striking. And he relied on the grappling in that fight, and he should have probably relied on the striking because he gasses if he grapples more than he does if he strikes. And Raul Rosas, on the other hand, he has not really shown gassing. Sure, he's slowed down a bit in previous fights, but due to Christian Rodriguez literally being like 5-6 pounds heavier in the weigh-ins, it's like Raul Rosas, whenever he's given a fair fight, he's able to control you for the duration of 3 rounds. And Corey Sandhagen, I understand that he's elite, but with one arm, he's able to hold down Rob Font for 5 rounds with one arm. He literally had like an arm injury in that fight, if you remember. And okay, it wasn't exactly like one arm. Like he could still use the arm that he broke to an extent, but I mean, Rob Font is going up against these like way lower level guys, whereas Rob Rosas, to be fair, is also kind of going up against that similar level. And on the other hand, Rob Font's going to these split decisions, whereas Raul Rosas is going to, granted some competitive decisions, but clear-cut wins, where he's always on top and he's always doing just enough to get the win. So I feel like Rob Font, even though he does the right things, he's just not going to be strong enough. Raul Rosas is getting stronger. He's getting bigger in the division. He's finally like, he's at that sort of prospect age. He's like at that, what's Cam something? The guy who's the Dricus du Plessis teammate, Cam whatever, Cameron something. I'm close there. He's at that sort of age of a prospect where it's like you're built enough. When he was 18, it was a little worrying because like oh he's kind of scrawny out there, but now he's 21. He's a fully grown adult basically. He's not like an 18 guy, 18, 19, where he's like just barely going into the being a UFC fighter. And he's got some really good double legs. He's got a pretty nice trip, a pretty nice single leg as well. And I think that he's gonna use the leg kicks, use some body kicks as well, and he's gonna just land the 1-2 when he needs to, when Rob Font is thinking of the takedown, and he's just gonna do the bare minimum on the feet to survive. And it's gonna be night and day on the feet. The jab is gonna be there for Rob Font, even the uppercut, but Raul Rosas, he's going to get him thinking about the takedowns, and then later in the fight, he's going to land the 1-2. He's going to land some body kicks, leg kicks, etc. So I'm going to say a 29-28, maybe even 30-27 for Raul Rosas. Kyle Braujo, Rainier de Ridder. I'm going with Rainier de Ridder. I don't give a frick. I'm going with the Dutch Knight. RDR, RDR. Rainier de Ridder de Ridder. That's literally his nickname. It's just RDR, bro. I'm going with decision 29-28. I think that Rainier de Ridder is heavily underrated. I think that he's been looking shredded in his recent pictures. He's taken the cut way more seriously. I don't think he's going to gas this time around, seeing as he's actually more acclimated to the weight class. If you actually seen the pictures, if you know, you know. And I think that he's actually like going into this weight class. He's going up against better competition than Kyle Braujo. Bo Nickel is insanely underrated. Brendan Allen is super high level. Robert Whitaker is super high level. And Kyle Braujo's I mean, look, granted, he's really high level in the striking. We've seen that. We've seen he has really good feints, really good kicks, really good hooks. His lead hook is especially impressive. With the speed, he's able to hit his opponents with it. And even a really good front kick. But I think that Kyle Braujo, he doesn't offensively wrestle enough. When he's being pushed, we've never seen that. And when he's being pushed on along the fence, I mean, he kind of was against Nasruddin Imavov in certain moments. And when he was, it was kind of trouble for him. He didn't really have an answer. When he's pressured, it's a different story. Against a guy like Jared Cannonier, where he could kind of keep the front foot a bit, and they're both kind of going tit for tat in the center of the octagon for the most part, he can style on him. And against these guys with like lower reach, lower height, he can kind of like work the legs, work the body a bit, and then find the counters upstairs. And he has a really good jab, to be fair, which is certainly going to be worrying against Rainier de Ridder. But I believe that Robert Whitaker has the quicker jab. I think he has the quicker head kicks, and I think he has the quicker counters. Kyle Barallo is close. It's going to be tough because Rainier de Ridder's striking did not look all that in that fight. But he did show that he was able to compete still, despite all those differences. Now, the only thing that's worrying here is Robert Whitaker has I'm pretty sure he has a shorter reach. He definitely has the shorter height. Kyle Braujo is like 6'2" in reality, and Rainier de Ridder is like 6'4". But they looked a little closer in the weigh-ins, and it's certainly something to be worried about because Kyle Braujo, even though he doesn't have the speed of a Robert Whitaker, he certainly has the attributes to sort of make things a little closer, a little tougher for Rainier to use his attributes of just size and use his reach to his own advantage. And Robert Rainier does definitely is slow for the division, no doubt. But I think his jab is going to be there for him. I think that Rainier de Ridder, if he's able to hurt Kaio, I think that his flurries, it's going to be something that Kaio's not ready for. I'm going to be honest, and I truly believe that like we haven't really seen him go up against a guy with really good knees, really good clinch work, and if it ever gets there, I just think it's going to be hard for Kaio to get off. And I think that Rainier showed really good takedowns against Brendan Allen early. This is a three-rounder, so it's going to give him more time to work those takedowns. And the way that he would just pick him up in moments. I know that Brendan Allen eventually did, but the way that Rainier is just, I think he's going to be way too physically imposing. Like, he is a natural light heavyweight, and he's really just somehow making the cut look easier. He's somehow looking even more shredded. So I can't I can't go against a guy who's just like this physically opposing, and he looked really good against Brendan Allen. People just remember the him gassing. This is a three rounder. He's probably not gonna have to worry about that too much, and he's looking shredded. He looks like he has a better cut. Whereas Kaio, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't in hindsight rewatching. I wasn't too impressed with the Nasruddin Imavov fight. I think that he was getting caught with the straight punches way too much. The knees were there at moments when Nasruddin went for it. And the kicks, it's just when he was going up against someone who has his sort of similar attributes, he was kind of flustered, and his lead hook wasn't there as much. He has a decent jab, but I feel like he's a little too low output. Whereas Rainier de Ridder, he puts a pace on you, and sometimes that leads to him gassing. But I feel like he's gonna be more watchful of that in this fight, and he's gonna pace himself better, especially in the point that it's the three rounder. Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. I'm gonna go with Max Holloway. As much as I want to go with Charles, it's like that meme. Like heart says Charles, brain says Max. I gotta go with Max, and I'm gonna go with a KO. I'm gonna go with round. Ooh, I think that Charles is gonna get a takedown in round two. I think this is gonna be kind of like the first two rounds are gonna be kind of like Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. I think the first round is going to be really competitive on the feet. I think that Max is going to show this. There's different levels in the speed. I think that he's going to speed mog him. He's going to land the beautiful 1-2. He's going to, he's going to like go to the body, then come upstairs. He's beautiful with mixing the targets. He's super fast. He has just the way he's mixing in the cross, the jab, the hooks to the body, and then come upstairs with the overhand. He's so quick twitch with all that. And when you come over and actually pressure him, like Mateusz Gamrot was able to land the overhand or the hooks even more often the hooks, but similar sort of technique to Max Holloway's counter overhand. Um, on Charles Oliveira with great success, and Charles was walking through it, to be fair, but you could just tell in his face, like, if that was a more powerful guy, he would get dropped by that, and possibly even worse. So Max Holloway is going to speed mock him early, but Charles Oliveira, he's going to keep coming forward, he's going to keep pressuring, and he's going to land those knees in the clinch at moments. That's going to slow down Max Holloway and the Teeps as well. I mean, I was genuinely surprised with Sean Strickland's performance against Anthony Hernandez, and I do think that there is some similarities in this fight. Whereas, even though Max Holloway, he does have some decent spinning back kicks to the body as well, I think that Charles Oliveira, even though he's open to the body, so is Max Holloway. So it's interesting to see that. I think that Max Holloway is definitely going to win the first round. He's going to hurt Charles on multiple occasions, but he's going to find the clinch in certain moments, and he's probably going to take down Max Holloway. And it's going to be Max Holloway's going to work his way back up because he does have great get-ups, but the strength difference in lightweight, he's going to feel it early on at least. And then the second round comes. Then Max Holloway, he's doing the same thing. He's working the body coming upstairs. Then he tries some oblique kicks. And then Charles Oliveira, he's kind of getting broken down a little bit. But then eventually, at one point, Charles he goes for the teep. Then he just comes upstairs with a beautiful straight right. And then Max Holloway has to respect it. He feels it. He backs up to the cage a little bit Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway-esque, and he instead of Max Holloway thinking the hands, Charles he sort of just hits a few punches on the guard maybe, and then he goes to take down I guess like Volk Yair Rodriguez. He dunks him and then he sort of works Max Holloway in on the ground a bit, and then he just barely wins the round because Max Holloway gets back to his feet, then works Charles a bit again, some spinning back kicks. But Charles lands some nasty elbows. Max is cut, and then in the third round, though, I think that Charles is going to be a little too trigger happy, and then Max Holloway is going to walk him onto a an overhand, similar to the Korean Zombie fight, because I just think that Charles he does have a similar style to the Korean Zombie on the feet. He's a little too eager sometimes with the hooks, and I think that that's just his style. That's just what he works with. I think that he sometimes he just he feels that he has to get the respect from you in the boxing. And that's just sometimes it works out for him, sometimes it doesn't. Usually it does. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say usually it doesn't. It has worked for him for most of his career. Like against um like against Dustin, like against Gaethje, but in this fight, I just think that Max he's way too quick, and I think that the collar ties aren't going to be there. I think Max Holloway is going to duck his head way quicker than Charles can anticipate, and I think that when he exits the clinch in the sort of early stages of the third round, he's going to come up the top with the overhand that Charles just doesn't see coming, and then boom, it's just going to be over for him. So I just see Charles getting flatlined, and as much as I hate to see it and say it, I think that's going to happen. I think that Charles is a way better grappler, and I do think that he's going to kind of show that Max Holloway against an Arman Tsarukyan is going to lose. Or did I say Charles is going to lose against him? Max Holloway, if I said that. And I do think that Charles is insanely good. He's super high level, but it just shows how freaking crazy high level lightweight is right now. So with that being said, I am going to go with Max Holloway. I do have quite a few good underdogs on this card, but Charles unfortunately is not one of them. But let's go, Charles. I'm praying for you, man. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Mask of MMA out.